My best friend almost watched me bleed out in a parking lot because a stranger decided he knew better than my body. It was a Tuesday in October, the kind of cold that catches you off guard. I just finished a double shift at the restaurant and was walking to my car when I felt it, that familiar sting blooming across my forearm. I looked down, a wasp still crawling on my sleeve. I'm severely allergic, not the sneezing kind, the dying kind. I called Marcus immediately. He was across town but said he'd come. I told him where my EpiPen was. Glove compartment, always. Except I'd switched cars with my sister that morning. That pen was sitting in a Honda Civic 3 miles away. The lot attendant, a heavyset man named Roy, according to his badge, was sitting in his booth. I walked over, arm already burning, and explained the situation. He looked at me like I was drunk. You don't look like you're having an allergic reaction. He gestured vaguely at my face. You're still talking fine. I told him it builds. I explained I had maybe 15 minutes before my airway tightened enough to matter. I asked him to call 911. He leaned back in his chair. My daughter used to do this. Panic attacks. Convinced herself she was dying every time something small happened. You need to breathe through it. I showed him my arm. The swelling was visible now, red tracking up toward my elbow. He stared at it, then shrugged. Looks like a regular sting to me. Marcus wasn't answering. I tried calling 911 myself. Roy stood up then, actually stood up, and stepped outside the booth. You do that. You're banned from this lot. We have a policy about creating public disturbances. I genuinely could not process what was happening. My throat wasn't closing yet, but I could feel the heaviness starting. That weighted pressure behind my sternum I'd felt once before when I was 12 and nearly died at a birthday party. I tried to walk to the street. Roy stepped in front of me. Sit down. You're scaring the other customers. There were no other customers. It was 11 p.m. I sat on the curb because my legs were starting to shake. I kept calling Marcus. Roy stood over me, arms crossed, telling me to control my breathing, telling me anxiety was powerful, telling me his daughter had learned to manage hers without medication. His daughter. I thought about her. I wondered if she was actually allergic to something and nobody believed her either. My arm was enormous by then. I could feel my lips getting thick. I started crying, not from fear, but from the sheer animal desperation of watching someone choose their ego over your life. Marcus arrived 14 minutes after I called him. He took one look at me, grabbed the spare pen from his own jacket. He'd started carrying one after he watched me nearly collapse 2 years ago, and administered it right there on the curb. Roy watched the whole thing. See, he said, as I started breathing normally again, you just needed to calm down. That's all that was. Marcus looked at him for a long moment, then he took out his phone and started recording. He asked Roy to repeat what he'd just said. Roy did, proudly even. The video got turned over to the parking company, the local news, and eventually went small-scale viral in our city's neighborhood groups. Roy was let go within the week. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that he'd done something similar before, dismissed a diabetic man's insulin emergency as dramatic behavior. I didn't feel satisfied when I heard he was fired. I thought I would. What I actually felt was tired. Tired of the particular kind of cruelty that disguises itself as wisdom. The people who have decided that suffering they cannot see isn't real, and that their skepticism is somehow a form of strength. Marcus still carries that EpiPen. I now carry two, plus a card in my wallet that says, in large red letters, this is not anxiety. Do not debate this. Call 911, because apparently some people need instructions on how to let you survive.